Hi, this is Ron Reich, and today I'm going to share with you the formula that works to having successful launches. This is a formula, this is a process that I have been perfecting for nearly 2 decades. So let's get right into it. So, the main thing that I want to share with you is that in order to have a successful launch, you have to not do the things that cause unsuccessful launches. That is key. Do not do the things that cause unsuccessful launches. So, what I'm going to share with you right now is I'm going to share with you the top 3 mistakes, things that can kill your launches. And then you'll find that if you do the opposite of these things, plus another bonus, really important thing that I'm going to share with you, then you are going to smash. I promise you that. The launch game has changed quite a bit over the years. However, there are certain principles and things that worked 10, 15, 20 years ago and are still working today. So let's get into it. So the mistake that people make when it comes to launching, the number one reason why launches can fail is because of lack of desire. It is as simple as that. When a launch fails, typically the number one reason is because the person launching the program is not selling something that people want. One of the early ideas I learned when I got into marketing nearly 2 decades ago, or actually over 2 decades ago, was the idea that you cannot create desire. You can only tap into the desire that is already there, and you can amplify it. So, this is really important. If you're not selling something that people want, nobody is going to invest in your product or service. So, how do you know what people want? Well, you have to do the work to figure out what people want. Most likely, if you're watching this, you are an established coach and you do have some clients, you have sold your program before, and so the work is to really do the work, do the research to figure out what exactly caused people to buy. What actually is the messaging you have that is actually landing? What is their, not just their surface desire, but what's their core desire? What's the thing that they really want? And how can you tap into that into your in your marketing? So that is an important thing. You need to actually, there has to be desire there. There has to be a demand for what you're selling. So as you know, it's not about, you're not your buyer, you're not your customer. So it's all about thinking about what do your ideal people want, and then of course giving it to them. The second thing is the reason why launches oftentimes don't work is because what you're launching does not appear to be new and different than what your prospects have seen before. What you're selling, it needs to come across as new, different, innovative, sexy, etc., etc. This is critical. Another thing I learned from my direct response marketing mentors is that pretty much everybody has this belief that the grass is always greener. They always have this belief that there's something outside of myself, there's something different out there. There's a special opportunity out there that's going to get me to my goal faster. And so we always need to be thinking about putting a new opportunity in front of our in front of our prospects. It's got to be something new and different that we have not seen before. Now, the good thing about this one is that if I'm being totally honest, which I'm always going to be totally honest with you, is this is a marketing exercise essentially, meaning that coming up with a new opportunity, coming up with a new mechanism, this is something that we can do through the exercise of our marketing muscles. A couple ways you can do this is, of course, looking at your unique mechanism. What is your proprietary system? What is the path that is getting? What's the new path, the new strategy, the new method that gets somebody from point A to point B? So that's one way of doing it. Related to that is by tapping into what's going on in the world, tapping into existing trends. There's essentially, there's positive things going on in the world that you can tap into, and there's negative things going on in the world that you can also tap into. And ideally, your product or service is the intersection of those two things. So, for example, the thing I'm talking about, which is fortunately it's true, is this idea of like the oxytocin economy and how we need to be optimizing for oxytocin versus dopamine if we want to have successful launches. So on one hand, the kind of I guess you could call the negative trend that's going on is that there's all of this technology, there's all of this AI, which is going at warp speed, and there's a lot of great things about AI. I'm pro AI, and some of the drawbacks of AI is that it's creating a lot of the same marketing that's very the same. People are becoming numb to it. It's very very dopamine based. It's very attention based, and that is not necessarily a good thing. But what that's done, what the opportunity is that because there's all of this kind of like technology, things are going so fast in that direction, people are valuing human connection more than anything. And my hypothesis, which I truly do believe, and it also is a good marketing message is that if you double down on human connection, then this is the thing that is actually going to make you invincible in the age of AI. So that's a positive trend and a negative trend combined with this idea of the oxytocin economy. So that's an example of how we can make what we're selling seem new and different. Of course, it's great if what you're selling actually is new and different. What I'm selling, what I am inspiring people to do, is really really use this idea of human connection to really optimize their marketing. So the final way that launches can fail is we just don't have there's just not a big enough audience for us to hit our launch numbers. This is the thing. Another thing that I learned quite a while ago is that marketing is psychology plus math. Psychology is the fun part. I was just talking about some psychology, some fun marketing stuff, but the math is also very, very, very important. For example, a good rule of thumb in any kind of launch list, if you think about, like, for example, if your launch involves getting people to a live event, a virtual event, how many people registered for that event? Whether that's a virtual event or a webinar or even a video series, a challenge, whatever it is, think about how many people were in that list. Old school people would call it your launch bucket. And then you ideally, if you can convert at least 2.5% of that list, that's kind of like our baseline. If anything, if 2.5% is like okay, and then anything above that, 3, 5, 10% is really good, is good. Anything below 2.5% is not so good if we're doing a proper launch. So what that means is that, like, let's say that you are selling you're selling a $5,000 program, and you're selling that $5,000 program primarily through doing a couple webinars. That's a thing people do when they're launching. That's a perfectly acceptable strategy. And it's a $5,000 program, so do the math. If you were to get 100 people registering for your webinar, then that means that if you made 3 to 5 sales, that would actually be really good. That would be really solid conversion. If you made 5 sales, like, that would be cool. That's a $25,000 launch, and you're winning based on those numbers. However, if your expectation is, oh, I'm going to do a $200,000 launch, then we just don't have the numbers to hit that, if that makes sense. And at the same time, if you were to make 2 sales, making $10,000 from 100 people signing up for a webinar, that's actually, it's not horrible. $10,000 is $10,000. So that's just a way to think about it, is that you have to have the numbers in place, you have to have the audience in place to have a successful launch. And the good news is that with social media, by tapping into our existing networks, everybody actually has a much bigger audience than they think that they have. It's really about activating those existing people. So you gotta have the audience, you gotta be selling something new and different, and you have to be tapping into the desire that already exists. And then the thing that's going to amplify all of this is actually what I was alluding to earlier. In all of the launches that I've done, all the most successful launches, the thing that still works the best is really having as much human connection as possible in our launch. So the more you can actually connect with people before, during, and after your launch event, the better your conversions are going to be. So that includes doing things like sending voice notes to the people who registered for your event, registered for your webinar, actually doing virtual events, doing in-person events. I call this a magnetic launch experience. Doing a thing where you get people together, they're really able to connect with you, connect with each other, because that's the thing that really, really opens people up to new possibilities and creates that connection that they're craving, which also makes them more inclined to invest in your products and services. So, sell what people want, offer them something new and different, make sure that you have the audience in place. As my mentors told me, if you don't have an audience, borrow somebody else's audience, and then amplify everything with that human connection. That is the formula that is going to do you very well, both now and in the future. So that's what I got for you today. Hopefully this was valuable. If you've not subscribed to this channel, please do so. That would do me a big favor. I'd really appreciate it. I'll see you next time. See ya.